Starting in mountain pose, stance, you're gonna make sure the weight is even so that there isn't any extra tension. If our weight's too far forward, there's extra tension on the front of our body to hold our balance. So try to keep it kind of even here. Shoulders down, collarbones lifted. Interlace the fingers behind you if you can. If you can't reach them, you can take a belt, strap, or a shirt behind you. Pull the knuckles down, take a giant inhale and spread the collarbones apart. Big inhale. And I'm actually thinking that my chest is lifting up. Even though my knuckles are going down, I'm lifting my chest up towards the ceiling. Now as you exhale, take the knuckles to your low back, let the elbows drop forward, let the head hang. We're gonna take that 2 more times. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. 1 more inhale. This time forward fold with the shoulders stretch. So again, try to keep a long spine, try to feel like your chest is moving forward and your knuckles are moving in the opposite direction of your chest. And if you can, try to squeeze the palms. I see this happening a lot with the hands. Try to squeeze the palms together to encourage that external rotation. All the way down. Let's stay here for 3 breaths. Breathing in the back of the body. Nod the head, yes and no. And then release the hands down to the floor. Take a couple breaths in a full forward fold. And then let's move to a squat pose, opening our toes to 10 and 2, making sure the knees go directly over the toes. Use the elbows to push the thighs away, take a warrior grip. Give a little wiggle to the toes so you're not scrunching your toes. Just lifting the collarbones, lift 1/4 of an inch above your joints so you're not sitting in your joints. The key to removing the armor and releasing and processing stressor, 2 things out of the fascia, is taking time in the poses, not just flowing through them. Taking more time than you probably think, maybe 1 to 3 minutes actually in each pose. And breathing, especially the exhale. When you don't want to get out of the pose anymore, that's when the pose is just beginning to take effectiveness. Let's take the hands down to the ground, push the heels out, so now you're in a wider forward fold, back down for 3 more breaths. And feel free to, when you do this again, to hang out longer than we're doing it here, so you get more effectiveness from it. This is basically to demonstrate a series for you. Let's walk back to down dog, hands down, feet behind you. Feel free to bend the knees, keep the pelvis nice and high, chest back towards the thighs. You can stretch between one heel and the other. This is a great opportunity to hold one heel down for a while. I see people bouncing back and forth each leg, and you're gonna get more effectiveness if you take 3 breaths on each side first. So left heel down, bend the right knee. And then change it out, right heel down. And then both, you can keep the knees bent, take the butt really high. And then lower the knees down, take a couple cat-cows. So just to open up the spine, we lift the collarbones and sit bones, maybe a little bit of a twist, bending the opposite elbow, rounding the spine. And then toe and wrist stretch. So sit back, reach back, spread the toes out. We'll take one wrist at a time. Let's take the left fingers back towards the knee, outwardly rotating. Let's take the palm of the hand, the right hand down. And just stay here, and wherever you're feeling the bit of resistance, that's where I want you to guide your breath. Another really important element about removing the armor is that as humans, especially in the Western culture, we're going a mile a minute. We can never sit still, our minds are never still, and technology just makes it worse. So to discipline yourself to focus steadily on one task for 1 to 3 minutes is also going to help you mentally work on your focus muscle. Let's trade hands. So even if you can only do a short practice, I actually invite you to, and encourage you, I should say, to maybe do less. So like say you only have 15 minutes to practice. Do less, fewer poses and more attention to breathing. I bet it's gonna be more effective for you. All right, let's release the hands and the wrists. Take the right foot forward, even if you have to grab it, to a lizard lunge. Open the knee and toes to 2 o'clock. Relax into the hips on the hands or the forearms, doesn't matter. You can even open up so the inner part of the arch comes off of the floor. This would be a great one to stay in for 1 to 3 minutes. Let's stay in just for about 5 breaths. You want to, with removing the armor, we're not trying to push past our boundary, but we go to that point of that first resistance where your body's like, oh, okay, and you stay there and you implement breathing. You implement some performance phrases. Some good ones for removing the armor are let go, release. I release what I don't need. That's the top down working on your body. Another thing I like to add here, if you can, is to bend the left heel. Some people could actually reach back for it. I used to in the past. I don't have that right now, which is fine. Make sure you're not sitting on top of your kneecap though. Make sure you're on the front of your thigh if you choose to do this. You can also put padding underneath your back knee. Again, this is optional. All right, from here, lower your back foot, come back to your hands. We're gonna go between a half split and this lizard lunge. So inhale, lift the collarbones up and find an extension in the spine. Then as you exhale, just push the hips back. We're kind of gonna do sort of a sloppy half lunge. If we were doing it correctly with alignment, it'd be in front with flexed foot like this. But for today, purposefully, we're going to release the alignment a little bit. I'm actually keeping my front knee bent a little bit to get right into the belly of the back of my leg. And I'm also keeping my foot flat so I can stretch the front of my foot and ankle. So it's okay to, nothing biologically is incorrect or anatomically is incorrect with this. It's just not seen a lot. And you know, if anyone has taken my class, I'm a stickler for alignment. But as long as you're purposeful with an intention of why you're doing movement and it stays in integrity with your anatomical structure, it's fine. Inhale, exhale. Let's go between a couple times. And then you might want to choose to stay here in the half split for a while. Take a few breaths. Release, let your head drop. Coming back to the lizard lunge, take the right hand to the right thigh, give it a twist. The back toes tuck under. The left knee lifts, and we're gonna get really big, reaching the arms up. Exhale, right hand down, back to downward facing dog. Let's do the other side. Knees down, left foot forward. So again, fewer poses in a given amount of time, but you give it more intention, more breath, more effort. It's also a great time to take things that you've learned from the top down. So if you want to really focus on a concept you read in a book or a quote you heard, you can repeat that concept to yourself or sort of, you know, think about it and make that your meditation object. And while you're doing that, it's also going to sort of embed in your body as well. As you see, I've lifted my right foot off the floor. And instead of going like, oh, I'm stuck here, I'm holding on, I keep trying to give in to gravity. Stretching isn't about pulling or pushing. If you want to gain functional mobility, it's actually about releasing. Let's come back to our hands. Inhale, lift the collarbones. Going back and forth to that sort of off-kilter half split. And let's stay here for a couple breaths. So again, if we were to be doing a full removing the armor class, you'd be in each one of these poses for about 1 to 3 minutes. So a full, 60-minute class, I mean, honestly, you might do 10 positions, and I'm talking about each side too. So if you do a position on each side, that would maybe only be 5 positions total, including some breath work and neural reset at the end. More isn't always better, which is what I'm learning. Good, right hand down, left hand to thigh, back in the lunge and twist. Left arm up. Hand down, back to down dog. Good, let's lower the knees. And let's finish off with a wide-legged forward fold. Again, this doesn't have to be very impressive or wide or deep or whatever. For me, and it just kind of depends on the season of your life too. For me, I'm already feeling my barrier, my little boundary right here. So I'm gonna chill out here. And I bet you if I stay here long enough, then my body would release and give me more space to move forward. Your only job here is to find that one point of focus, which could be your breathing, it could be a performance phrase, it could be that concept you're thinking of. Release. If this is difficult, you can also do one leg at a time, pulling one leg in, and that gives you a little bit more space than the other side. One thing I like to do here is I'll put my hand on one side, so left hand on left thigh. And I can put my elbow on the ground or on a prop like this, and just place my head in my hand. So it's mimicking a forward fold, but without the activation around it, the activity. So I'm pushing this down, I'm taking my right ear over my right knee, and you can even kind of use this bottom hand to turn yourself chest upward. So you see my body's mimicking a side bend, but it's a little more reclined, a little more passive, and I'm feeling it here, so this is where I'm going to breathe. Good, let's do the other side. Right hand to right thigh, leaning on your left hand. And again, we're not leaning this way. It's still purposeful. So I'm actively pressing it away to find space between my hip and my rib cage. Lots of space there. And I'm also actively turning my head. You might even want to place your elbow on your leg or behind your leg, so you can keep the alignment of the torso right over the leg. So I'm feeling this all the way down into my right thigh, so that's where I'm going to breathe. Come back up. Let's return to the forward bend. Sometimes after you do those side bends and you come back to a forward fold, you actually find more space afterwards. And then of course, you can do the exact same thing if you want with the feet together in the cobbler's position, or just do a little cat and cow here. And then I always like to end this series with a heart opener, which is also in our category of removing the armor, this restorative position. Restorative and yin yoga are different, by the way, but I kind of group them together for removing the armor. So I put this against my pelvis and I lean back. Now typically I have something to put under my head. You don't have to do that if you want the extension in the neck, but if you would like something to support your head a little bit more, you can put something underneath. You can have your knees open. We don't typically teach this position in YFFR, so you can have the knees together. You can have the legs extended, hands on your belly or out to the side. And then you can just maybe do a breath countdown or repeat a performance phrase there, or listen to a mindfulness recording on Cyber Academy, which is our app. There is some removing the armor classes on our app, Cyber Academy. I'll definitely add some more that's the season I'm in right now, doing a lot of that, so I'm sure you'll see more on Cyber Academy.